What's going on, baseball fans? So for today's video, we have a special video, and that is how to fix my team's arch rival, the New York Yankees. What has happened to the team that I grew up to hate? What has happened to the evil empire? So due to my concern and my desire to quit seeing my arch rival absolutely suck, I am here today to offer my suggestions on how to fix the New York Yankees. There's a lot of work to do, so let's get to it. The first guy to let go is a truly respected Yankee, Brett Gardner. He's had a solid career for the Yankees, averaging 14 homers, a .743 OPS, and 28 stolen bases per season. However, with the Yankees needing more room for their younger outfielders and with Gardner not getting any younger at 37 years old, it's time to move in a different direction. The next guy to let go is James Paxton. When he was brought over from the Mariners back in 2019, Yankee fans were very excited for the possibility of a truly great rotation. However, it just hasn't really worked out, mainly because of inconsistencies and health, as he only started 5 games this past season. The last guy to let go is J.A. Happ. When they traded for him back in 2018, he went on a great run, going 7-0 and 11 starts down the stretch. However, he's only averaged a 4.57 FIP and under 9 strikeouts per 9 the last 3 seasons, and he made comments regarding his playing time and contract earlier on in the season, which a lot of Yankee fans, and I'm sure the front office, didn't like. There's a couple of guys I think the Yankees should bring back, and the most obvious one is DJ Mayhew. He was arguably the Yankees' best player in 2020, and for good reason. He led the major leagues in batting average with a .364 and led the American League in both on-base percentage with a .421 and OPS with a 1.011. Not only can he play second base, but he can also play both infield corner positions. I think if you're the Yankees, you can't let him go anywhere. The next guy to bring back is Masahiro Tanaka, and while I don't see Tanaka as a number 2 guy in the rotation behind Cole, I do think he's a solid pitcher to have in your rotation as a 3 or a 4. He's been generally consistent during his entire career for the Yankees, shown by his ability to make most of his starts every year since 2016, along with averaging a decent 4.18 FIP in the last 3 seasons. A lot of Yankee fans have been critical of the defensive play from shortstop Gleyber Torres, which is completely understandable. He's averaged -4 defensive runs saved a season at shortstop the last 3 seasons, along with a -4.6 defensive runs above average and a -3.2 UZR. That is just terrible. In 2020, he had -9 defensive runs saved and a -5.0 UZR. And that's just awful. A lot of people have also suggested he could move back to second base, but he's actually shown to not be that much better there either. So what do we do about his defense? Well, I think you could just ride it out and keep working with him. People have to remember he's only 23 years old and he has a big future ahead of him. I can actually think of another shortstop that also didn't have very good defense early on in his career, and that's Xander Bogart. In his first 3 seasons at shortstop, he averaged -6 defensive runs saved and a -4.6 defensive runs above average and a -0.86 UZR. Since then though, while the defensive runs saved haven't gotten much better, he has averaged a better 0.4 UZR, and he played adequate enough defense at short in 2018 to help my Red Sox win a World Series. I'm not saying Torres needs to be a Gold Glove shortstop, but he simply just needs to be adequate enough to make plays consistently. Give him some time to work on the defense, and I'm sure there will be some improvements next season. On the other hand, if the Yankees think that Torres just isn't going to cut it at short and would be a better option at second base, they could look into some free agents who have stellar track records defensively. One option is Andrelton Simmons, who's been one of the best defensive shortstops in the game. Another is Marcus Semien, who had a bit of a down year offensively in 2020, but he was still solid defensively and had a ridiculously good 2019 season on both sides of the ball. There's also a couple of options on the trade market, with the most obvious being Francisco Lindor. I decided to go to baseballtradevalues.com and piece together a trade. With the Indians needing some offense, especially in the outfield, maybe the Yankees could offer up Clint Frazier, along with shortstop prospect Oswald Peraza and outfield prospect Estevan Florial. Maybe they could give the Rockies a call and see what it would take to get Trevor Story. How about sending over Domingo Germán, who had a very good rookie season but was suspended last season due to domestic abuse, so maybe he could use a fresh start. He also has a pretty good sinker which would play well at Coors Field. Throw in a couple prospects like Oswald Peraza and Estevan Florial and they could have something here. Maybe they could turn to the Cubs to make a trade where reports indicate that they could be looking to unload some veterans. Maybe they could go after Javier Baez where they could offer up Miguel Andujar, Estevan Florial, and pitching prospect Luis Medina and bring in Javier Baez and maybe a relief pitcher as well in Rowan Wick. However, signing a free agent shortstop or trading for one would most likely mean DJ LeMahieu will not come back, unless they decide to trade away Gleyber Torres, which I don't think is likely. Whatever it is, the Yankees desperately need to see an improvement on defense at shortstop. Another area of concern this year was Aaron Hicks, who's usually a solid defender out in center. However, he did struggle this year with -8 defensive runs saved, a -3.9 UZR, and a defensive runs above average of -3.3. I'm sure a lot of this had to do with him coming back from injury and getting himself going again, but the defense out in center needs to be improved. While I do think the Yankees should keep Aaron Hicks out in center field due to his track record, I do think they should bring in a fourth outfielder that excels defensively. I did mention earlier that they should let Brett Gardner walk. However, if he wants to come back on a cheaper deal as a fourth outfielder, I think that could be good for both sides. They could also turn to another free agent, someone like Jake Marisnick, who's really good out in the outfield. Another problem the Yankees had this season was another position up the middle, and that was at the catching position. In the postseason, Gary Sanchez was benched for Kyle Higashioka after being given several chances throughout the years to improve his defense, which hasn't ranked well among other major league catchers. While his defense did make some strides this season, keyword being some, his offense ended up taking a hit and pretty much only relied on the home run ball. While I do like Higashioka's defense, you realistically won't get too much with the bat. One solution is sitting right there in free agency, and that's JT Realmuto, who will give you both offense and defense along with working well with pitchers. Simply put, Realmuto is the best catcher in the game, at least in my eyes. In his career dating back to 2014, he's averaged a .278 batting average, 21 homers, 79 RBIs, and a .783 OPS. On the defensive side, he has the second highest defensive runs above average dating back to 2018, the second highest runs saved through pitch framing, and has saved the most runs from base runners. In my opinion, JT Realmuto would be a perfect fit for the New York Yankees. If JT Realmuto isn't in the cards, there are a couple other catchers out there that would provide immediate benefits. The most obvious name who's been linked to the Yankees a bit this offseason is future Hall of Fame catcher Yadier Molina. He won't give you a ton offensively, but it won't be bad either, as from 2017 to 2019, he averaged a .268 batting average, 16 homers, 71 RBIs, a .738 OPS, and he was on pace for similar results in 2020. However, with Molina, what you're really getting is one of the best defensive catchers in the game, as he's averaged a 7.53 defensive runs above average over the last 3 seasons, which ranks 7th among catchers with at least 800 plate appearances over that time. Another option could be James McCann, who hasn't had the best track record defensively, averaging only a 2.28 defensive runs above average in his career, but he did put together a 4.4 defensive runs above average in only 31 games this past season, which ranked 11th in the majors. With McCann, you're also getting some solid offense, as he hit .289 this past season with 7 homers and an .896 OPS. Whoever it is, the Yankees desperately need to shore up the catching position. I personally think being without Tommy Kahnle hurt the Yankees this season, as he was a key setup man for them in 2019, and the Yankees bullpen really struggled this season, only ranking 14th in the majors in wins above replacement. One reason he was so effective was his combination of good velocity, and he had a decent spin rate on his fastball, along with a solid changeup. With Kahnle probably not coming back, the Yankees could use another arm, and they should take notes from the Rays bullpen that is full of power arms. Aroldis Chapman hasn't been able to get it done in the postseason, so I think adding a power arm could help him greatly. The Yankees have a group of guys just sitting around that could be expendable. One guy in particular that I mentioned earlier, Gary Sanchez, who could use a change of scenery. There's also Miguel Andujar, who finished second for Rookie of the Year back in 2018, but he seems to have no spot with the Yankees after injury. Shortstop prospect Oswald Peraza, who's been blocked by Gleyber Torres, and outfield prospect Estevan Florial, who just hasn't really been able to emerge at all with the Yankees. There's a couple of options sitting out there. One guy is Josh Hader, who seems to be on the trade block every single year, and he could be expendable now due to the emergence of Devin Williams. However, I personally think the Yankees should look towards a righty power arm, as they ranked 3rd in FIP and 11th in strikeouts per 9 from left-handed pitching in their bullpen this past season, while they only ranked 24th in FIP and 17th in strikeouts per 9 from their righties. One option could be a guy who's coming off a World Series championship, Blake Treinen. Overall, he had a solid season for the most part, as he posted a 3.86 ERA and a 3.15 FIP and ranked in the top 10 in fastball velocity in 2020. There's also Trevor Rosenthal, who had over 14 strikeouts per 9 this past season with the Royals and Padres. Maybe Keone Kela, who's a free agent for the first time and should be fully healthy for 2021. Maybe they could look towards the trade market and go after a guy like Raisel Iglesias on the Reds, who's a free agent next year. Maybe they could look towards Craig Kimbrell, who I'm sure the Cubs would love to free themselves from, and he showed a lot of improvement last year after a bad start to the season while still striking out a ton of guys. Whoever it is, a guy that can throw straight gas would be very beneficial for this Yankees bullpen. In the 2020 playoffs, the one thing that stuck out to me with the Yankees was anytime someone else pitched besides Garrett Cole, you were in for a roller coaster ride. While Cole went 2-0 with a 2.98 ERA and 30 strikeouts over 3 postseason starts, the rest of the starters between Tanaka, Jordan Montgomery, Davy Garcia, who only pitched 1 inning, what are you doing, Mr. Boone? And let's say J.A. Happ, who came in after Garcia's 1 inning, weren't quite as hot. Altogether, they pitched just under 16 innings combined to an ERA of 10.07. That is just awful. While it seemed the addition of Cole last offseason could have been the final piece in a championship puzzle, it proved not, as the Yankees clearly lacked a number 2 behind him. Enter Trevor Bauer. He has a very good chance to win the Cy Young. After a dominant season with the Reds, going 5-4 with a league-leading 1.73 ERA, 12 strikeouts per 9, and an excellent FIP of 2.88 that ranked 8th in the majors. In my personal belief, I think teams looking to win a championship need to have at least 2 or more starting pitchers that give you a good amount of innings per start, along with being able to strike out at least 10 batters per 9, or at least something close to that. Look at the Nationals from 2019 with Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, and Patrick Corbin. Look at the Red Sox from 2018 with Chris Sale and David Price. The Houston Astros from 2017, yes, I know they cheated, leave me alone, with Justin Verlander, Lance McCullers Jr., and Charlie Morton. In my opinion, Bauer is a great fit for the Yankees. As we all know, he is outspoken for sure, but I think the Bronx would embrace it because he'll bring everything he has every single start, which you know he will be able to make based on his track record of starting at least 27 games a season since 2015. The Yankees need a number 2 behind Garrett Cole, and I know that Garrett Cole and Trevor Bauer had their problems in the past when playing at UCLA, but come on, it's been years now, and the ultimate goal is to win a championship. Set aside your differences, talk it over a nice steak and potato dinner, and go win a World Series. However, if Bauer does end up going elsewhere, there are some other options out there that the Yankees have to put a solid number 2 behind Cole. One option could be trying to piece together a trade for Yu Darvish. The Cubs have made it known to all teams that pretty much all veterans on their team are available, so maybe the Yankees can put together some kind of a package to bring him in. Whatever it is, the Yankees need to have someone to go along with Garrett Cole in the playoffs. So that's how I would fix the New York Yankees. Tell me what you think down below. Tell me some things that you would do, but that's all I got for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.